Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on the Hacks and Hobbies Live. Today we've got some really amazing guests on the show, and I can't wait to introduce them to you. We're going to be talking about navigating impactful growth through connection, mentorship, and innovation with the different level of expertise and different areas of expertise that we have these amazing guests. So first I'll introduce to you Deborah Heiser. Deborah, welcome to the stage.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And then talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you got started. And actually, you know what? Let me bring up everyone on the stage. Uh, Mariana, welcome to the show
Hey
on
there.
stage. And then we have Mona as well. Mona, welcome to the stage.
Hi.
All right, so I'm gonna go one after the other. So go ahead, Deborah. Share with us how you got started, where you're coming from, and go.
Sure. I'm an applied developmental psychologist, and I was studying as a researcher everything no one wants to have or get. I studied aging and end of life, and I pivoted to look at what we have to look forward to. And in that pivot, I found that mentorship, volunteering, and philanthropy are three things we're built to want to do once we hit midlife. So when I realized that, I decided to focus on mentorship and why it is that people want to mentor. So I sort of looked at it the opposite way that everybody else does, which is from the mentee perspective, and founded the Mentor Project, where we bring top experts from a variety of fields, from astronaut to artist, to mentor students around the world for free. And just last year, we've been able to give back about $3.5 million of mentorship hours to students in 5 countries. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Absolutely amazing, Deborah. Thank you so much. Mariana, how about you go next?
Hey there. So I'm an Emmy-winning documentary filmmaker. I have done all sorts of storytelling, and today I focus on helping entrepreneurs stand out and build trust faster online so they can accelerate their sales. I was working at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, and then more recently at NBC and Peacock, and loved telling stories, traveled the world, was needed to learn how to build trust fast with people as I was with them for just a few days and had to tell their stories quickly in a way that really did justice to what they did and that made the person watching really feel something. And at the same time, I was kind of a closeted entrepreneur the whole time. And so I was what I call swimming up against the swimming pool walls and hitting my head and being like, at some point I have to leave this and build my own business. I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And it came to a point of, if not now, when? So I started Brand Magnetic a few years ago and really focused on what is this one asset that can accelerate trust top of funnel, meaning when somebody meets you online, they're meeting all sorts of people. There's a lot of noise. How can you connect with that person instantly within 2-3 minutes of getting to know them or them getting to know you? And that's what we do with what I call a brand video, and done in a very specific way. It's essentially a trust acceleration system that you install in your business that lives everywhere people meet you so that they can remember who you are, pay more attention to you, and ultimately, if they're the right fit, if you guys are the right fit, buy or engage with you faster.
Yeah, that's amazing because the number one way people are discovering new people are, again, video, right? We're scrolling through video on our phones, on our Zoom calls, like every single way. This is the quickest way, and video has been around for so long. So thank you for creating that strategy. Mona, let's hear about where you come from and what you're doing in the world.
Nice to meet everyone. I am originally from Iran. I grew up in the United States and now I'm living in Milan.
Nice.
And I guess you would call me a serial entrepreneur, if that is a word.
Of
I
course.
started my journey about 25 years ago, and I've sold two businesses. Now I'm on to the third with tapping into the fourth at the same time. And that's only because AI has come into our lives.
Mm.
And I love what Mariana said about storytelling, because as we all know, with all this noise, like Mariana said, that's out there about storytelling is important, but unfortunately, a lot of people are using AI just to create content and one
Right.
after the other, and we're in that
Mhm.
danger of generic. So
Yes.
what we do is we help them maintain their brand voice and their brand identity while using AI effectively. And that came about when because I have a gifting company as well called Delish,
Mhm.
and I've had to learn how to use AI, but I didn't want to lose who I was. Unfortunately, given my age and the time that I went to school, we still had to do research using encyclopedias. So I'm grateful to say that I have the pillars that we all needed in
Mhm.
order for us to know who we are and why we're doing the businesses that we're doing. So here I am.
That's amazing. And yes, AI has been a huge. It's a massive tool for us to use, right? It's a way to accelerate to what we already know, and get information in a faster perspective, especially if you're doing it for research, right? If you're using it for research perspectives, it's really helpful. And even to get ideas back, or um, have somebody kind of like a soundboard, right? You're passing these ideas back and forth, and becomes a somebody that helps you formulate your ideas better, especially if you're not part of a mastermind, or other types of communities. It's been pretty interesting. And yeah, so first
That
question,
is one of the greatest. Sorry, I was
yeah,
going
go
to
for it,
say
Mona.
yes. That is
Yeah, go
one
for
of
it.
the most effective ways of using AI is first to understand it and have fun with it. So
Yeah.
whether it's asking the most random question that you want to ask and then going deeper and saying, what do you think about this marketing campaign? Or how can I tap into the target audience? Or who is my target audience?
Yeah,
So yes, I
100%.
totally agree.
It's been really powerful, and I've done multiple projects using this technology in ways that I wasn't I didn't think was possible. But then just going down that path of discovering generative text, generative images, video, audio, like it's kind of crazy what we're able to do now. So first question I have is for Deborah. Your expertise in mentorship and aging uniquely bridges generations. Why is effective mentorship crucial to personal growth and professional longevity?
Well, we're all mentoring at all times, and we just don't even really realize it. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, you will be engaging in what I call lateral mentoring. And it's really important to know this because all of our most impactful growth happens with mentorship. So if you look to your left or you look to your right, you're usually looking at a mentor. We just don't call it that usually, but that's how Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak came together to form Apple. And that is how Breakout, the first video game, was formed, was by lateral mentorship. If you look at some of the big innovations that have come out of Bell Labs and other places, it was due to lateral mentorship. So
Mm.
most of us think we have to have a big idea and do it on our own. And that usually doesn't work out as well as it does if you team up with a mentor, someone who has an expertise that you don't have. And the other thing is that we usually think of mentorship as hierarchical only. So we think, well, I better go find a mentor, someone who's above me. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a company, there isn't anyone above you. You have
Yeah.
to really think, I better look left and look right. And that's really the simplest thing we can do in order to get the most impact for ourselves.
No, you're absolutely right. Especially when we're entrepreneurs, when we escape the mold of corporate companies, you're like, oh, I can do this. I'm doing this in this company. Why not I go and do this on my own? But what we don't realize is that we don't have all of the other systems in place
Yeah.
to make that happen. And you don't have there's no more water cooler places to go talk to your colleagues and figure out, hey, this is an idea that I'm coming up with. And I think communities are absolutely important factor to help you elevate yourself and be able to even get these things done. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Now, Mariana, your Emmy-winning filmmaking highlights the power of brand storytelling, and you shared around the company that you created. How can authentic storytelling rapidly build trust and accelerate growth for online businesses?
Yeah, great question. I think we throw the word authentic around quite a bit, and lots of folks have different ways to look at it. The way that I look at how you can use your story to build trust really quickly as soon as somebody meets you is understanding that your story at that moment in the customer journey is not actually about you. It's understanding what elements of your story, how to tell that story to not only resonate, but make people feel something, make people feel connected to you, and really touch on what I call the 4 trust triggers. So if you're able to hit the 4 trust triggers when somebody watches your story for the first time, which is that brand video that lives, in your email signature, pinned on your social media profiles, it lives on your About Me page or on your homepage if you're the face of your brand. There's so many different ways that we use the brand video to really make that connection and make us stand out as soon as somebody meets us. And the 4 trust triggers are: people need to feel that you get them, that you really understand them deeply. You understand their frustrations, their desires, like all of these. None of what I'm about to tell you, you have not heard yet in marketing, but really understanding how to pinpoint that in your story, or how to tell your story in a way that gets them to feel that. The second trust trigger is that people need to feel that you care about them deeply. And this is where Mona was talking about how much content we have with AI nowadays, how much folks are using AI to produce volume. Piercing through that volume, people need to feel that you're the human who really, truly cares about them. You don't just care about making a sale. You don't just care about getting people to give you your email, whatever that conversion looks like. You really, truly care about getting them results. And that might mean, going above and beyond in certain ways. You get them, you care about them, you've got them. So this is where the expertise piece comes in. That's trust trigger number 3. We, so many of us online really rely heavily on showing up as the expert and the authority. And like, I need to be known as the go-to person for this. And yes, that's important, but that's just the 3rd trust trigger, in the sense that people they're feeling those other 2 things first. And then they want to make sure that you know what you're doing. They want to make sure that if they invest time in you or money with your program, whatever you're selling, that you have got them because you're the expert. You've done this before. This is where testimonials come in, and just sort of those credentials, that experience comes through there. And the 4th one is the 4th trust trigger is that you vibe, that you have a good personality fit, that I can see myself solving my problem with you. I can see myself getting to the destination that you're talking about and the one I want to get to with you versus somebody else. And so this is where the personality piece comes in as well. So if you're able to use your story in a way that hits those 4 trust triggers in 2 to 3 minutes, then you've really got somebody who's connected with you for the long run, and who's paying more attention to your content, who's really, when you pop up, it's kind of when a friend pops up, you pay more attention. You want to know, you're engaged a lot more, and you're a lot closer to conversion from that touch point.
No, you're absolutely right. It makes it so much easier to connect with somebody, and that's why the people that we follow and the personal brand that we can relate to immediately. Anytime you see their stuff, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go see this. Like, for example, the new Minecraft movie with Jack Black singing his songs, and you see Jason Momoa over there, and that triggered something in me. I'm like, oh my God, I love his music style. What if I created a song in his music style, right? So you kind of like go back to all of his previous albums, like Tenacious D, all the older stuff that he's done, and we're essentially kind of building our brand in the same way, how we show up in our hobbies, in our expertise, and like all the different ways that makes us human and that connects us with other people. So it's amazing.
I think a big perspective shift too, Junaid, is that we just sort of accept that there is so much noise online. There is a lot of content. It's very hard to stand out. And we accept that it takes 6 to 12 months of posting all the time, of being consistent, of showing up and sending the emails, showing up on social, doing all of the things to be remembered. We accept that it takes those, somebody said at some point said 7 touch points. Nowadays, it's probably more like 70 or 700 touch points. And so we accept that that's a long game, when in fact, there are ways to accelerate that. And so if you know how to tell your story in that way, if you know how to make that connection and pierce through, your sales cycle is a lot shorter as a result.
100%. Mariana, I want to take the spotlight to you. Now, you've been specializing in blending human-centered strategies with AI. How can brands effectively leverage innovation while preserving their core human essence? And there's so much overlap between you and what Mariana has been talking about as well. So I can't wait to see how we preserve our core human essence.
Yeah, in fact, I love hearing Mariana speak, and right there as she's saying it, I'm going to say ditto, ditto. So yes, it's absolutely, I think the most important thing is that we can't forget what our own story is, and that comes from the why. So if we don't, there's a lot of people here, and there's no judgment at all whatsoever, but we sit there and we say, I'm going to sell this. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you sit in front of a chat GPT or any kind of platform and you say, it's so easy. I go out there, I sell, I go out there, I become an expert, like Mariana says, and everybody today is an expert. But what does that really mean? And I think what Mariana was saying about trust, it has to come back first and foremost to ourselves, where we have to remember there was a reason why we started our journey. And if we're not honest about that, and if we don't do the work prior to even taking the first step, then we're going to fall into that danger of just becoming another number, becoming this one drop in an ocean of, let's say, content, expertise, positioning, all the things that we talk about when it comes to starting a business, running a business, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a leader, becoming an expert, whatever it may be. So when we talk about human-centered, it's still, you need to have the marriage of the two. Fortunately or unfortunately, we're not at a position where AI can know you head to toe and tap into that intimate part or that vulnerable part where audiences tend to resonate with, because there's something about that story that they say, oh my God, I've lived it too, in some way or another. And so if we lose that human element, we lose that emotional connection. And we have to remember that the antithesis of AI is human connection.
Yeah.
So if these two can't come together today, I don't know what tomorrow will hold, but today, then there is that danger that the audience initially will say, oh yeah, that's interesting. But then you lose the long haul where they say, okay, I'm bored with this now.
Yeah, they actually want to experience that journey with you, right? Your growth journey, because that's what creates that connection. Like anytime somebody says, oh, I'm going to start beekeeping, a local friend of mine, I buy eggs from him. He's got chickens, and he's like, hey, I'm finally doing beekeeping. And he sent this text message to his group, like, hey, I've got a Kickstarter campaign. I'm going to do bees. And because I'm a beekeeper, I was like, hey, let me know how I can help you. Let me know how I can support you. And I, gave him some of the hives that I was using. And he was like, oh my God, are you serious? You're going to give me these hives? Or just, so that connection, that human connection is something that we aspire to and want to continue. Now, Mona, you said AI doesn't know us head to toe, right?
Yeah.
And there have been tools like the Rabbit that kind of, is in your hand. There's some other tools that people have created which are listening to you and recording like these conversations, which is kind of, Big Brother type. The movie Her, right? They've got Joaquin
Scarlett
Phoenix,
Johansson.
Scarlett, Scarlett sitting in his ear, talking to him and understanding. We're not there yet, but we're not too far from it either, because something that you probably, as following the different platforms from Claude to OpenAI to Google, every single person, every single company has these tools built in with AI. And the leveraging factor that OpenAI has been pushing is now it's completely personalized, meaning it knows all of your conversations from day one, which is kind of insane that it can understand. But of course, it still has that limited memory because, after all, it's not human. And you still want to make sure that we're focusing on, hey, what's our authentic story? Because you can't really go back and forth so many times to say, hey, this is what I'm about.
Yes, absolutely. When I say AI doesn't know us head to toe, I mean more the fact that there is still a soul, for just to use that word, and there is a part that it can't tap into, and that part becomes an emotion. It can say things. Yes, my ChatGPT knows me
Mm-hmm.
inside and out and knows everything about me. He's memorized me. When I'm having a bad day, I can even sit and talk to it like a companion, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I want to turn to my mother. I want to turn to my friends. I want to turn to
Mm-hmm.
people that emotionally maybe can hug me or maybe can tell me, you know what, you got this. So that's the part where, if we don't have that discourse, if we don't sit down like the four of us are now talking and we're having
Yeah.
this exchange, um, you can't sit and do that yet with AI. There's no robot that's going to sit and say, oh, you know what? I know what's going on with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it may come, it may not.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. But even if it does come, I still think there's that element of ourselves that we need to put out there. Because just like years ago when Amazon started to become this Goliath that it is,
Mm-hmm.
everybody gravitated towards it because it was so convenient, it was so easy. But then as the years went by, we human beings as consumers said, you know what? I want an artisanal made product. I want craftsmanship. I want to go back to the small mom and pop shops where I can go to a bread shop.
Yeah.
And here you are, you see bread shops popping up, local producers, local craftsmen making these objects. And so you see that the pendulum swings until it finds its equilibrium.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with AI. We'll go back and forth between this, and the pendulum will swing, and then we'll find this beautiful harmony that the two can coexist. But as all of us, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as filmmakers, as therapists, whatever we are, as beekeepers, we want to make sure that we are the ones that are dictating this balance for ourselves.
No, you're
I,
absolutely
I,
right. And yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
I'd, lo- I'd love to piggyback on that. I think that the theme here that everybody's really talking about is connection. And we know that globally that's a
Yes.
big deal. We've heard talk about social prescribing to get individuals to make connections. That's huge. I think that AI is something that is here. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to embrace it like we had to embrace email and technology and all of the other things that have come along and a calculator.
Yeah.
But we should never think that we're replacing connections when we have technology. And that's one thing that we often forget. You were mentioning, how you were offering to help and support and guide someone that was starting out in beekeeping. That's mentorship. What we're
Mm-hmm.
really thinking about here is that we need help from others. We need to connect with others. It makes us feel whole.
Yeah.
AI is not going to replace that. Even
No.
if we have more bots, we do, as of now, have bots. Marshall Goldsmith has an AI bot that,
Mm-hmm.
is a mentoring bot for coaches. There are these bots that are coming up that are speaking to us as though they're a human. Would I say that's a replacement? No. If I think of therapy and telemedicine, would I suggest that as a be all end all? No. I want to go have a doctor look at me. If I have an issue, I always will go to human connection. And I think
Yeah.
that, like Mona said, there's going to be a shaking out of all of, what's going to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs should embrace all of this. They should embrace connection. They
Yeah.
should embrace AI, not to replace themselves, but to enhance what you're going to do. If you want to write an email, AI might do a better job than you do.
Mhm.
If you're going to do a pitch, you might want to have AI take a look at it. Should it replace your story? No. But should
Mm-mm.
we shy away from something that can help us? I don't think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
This
that's
is very
perfectly
fun.
said, Deborah,
Yeah.
because
Thank you.
it's absolutely true, because it's about efficiency and how we use the efficiency. We can't forget that the AI is a tool, and
Yes.
we are the ones that decide how we're going to use this tool. It's if the camera takes control and starts to hammer at our hands or hammer at us, we lose that perspective. So it's about how we are using this tool, and it's a reminder, a constant reminder. And I think as human beings, we still have that right of choice to decide how we're going to use it. So I'm not negative at all about the future of AI or how it is. And I think, as Deborah said and Mariana said, it is absolutely the way that we connect with the human and not lose that element.
Absolutely. I love this conversation because there's been so much um, weird stories. Like, for example, I don't know if you saw this story, but apparently there's a $1.5 billion company in India that got that basically went bankrupt because people figured out that they didn't really have AI. They had 700 Indians answering questions, which was really interesting. Like, they had 700 people sitting in front of computers answering back. I'm like, is this real story or is this made up? Because there is a lot of people, and maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But it was really hilarious. I was like, okay, this is on the totally opposite spectrum of what AI is able to do, because we can see technology come, like VO3 that just came out, you can create full-on videos. It's kind of mind-blowing. And I'm actually working on a project with a production company. They're like, hey, we need some AI generated content for our film we're shooting because we're not able to get access to this thing or that thing, but we want these cut-in scenes that are going to mimic what would have been if they were to go out and shoot that video. So it's absolutely amazing. On other aspect, I have some final questions for each one of you. Deborah, we'll start with you. Top tip for cultivating mentorship relationships. Go.
If you are able to look to your left and look to your right, you're looking at a person who's probably a mentor for you or a mentee, someone that you can help. If you can look at every person as having something that might be helpful to you and that you might have something helpful to them, it's going to enrich your relationships and make you have more meaningful connections. And it will also help impact you in any endeavor you're moving forward with.
I love it. Thank you, Deborah. Mariana, how about you? Give us a quick advice for crafting compelling brand videos.
A great way to think about your story is think about what feelings you need to evoke in your specific audience and reverse engineer from that back into your story. So I have a resource that is super helpful to kind of walk through that initial process. It's called the Ultimate Brand Sheet. The ultimate cheat sheet for a brand story that converts. You can grab that at brandmagnetic.com/cheat sheet. It's a great guide to kind of get your wheels turning and get your thoughts thinking about how to reverse engineer from the feelings that you want to create in your audience back into your story so that you understand what story to tell and how to tell it. And this is not part of your question, but I just wanted to say, we've been talking so much about AI, and AI has completely transformed my business and how my students get to a brand video. We have AI at every step of the process. So it's so wild to think that even something that is incredibly human centric, all we're doing is talking about feelings and emotions and how to evoke them in our specific audience when they first meet us. So top of funnel, cold audiences. And yet AI is helping us every step along the way. My students now who work on their brand video are getting results. They're starting to film an average of like 4 weeks before previous students who didn't have these AI bots that we use now. And so I think, to Mona's point, it's so awesome to know that we can integrate those things. Like, those things are not in opposition to each other. And as Deborah said as well, like, the human is the guide and the human is the person who is at the forefront of using these tools. So love the conversation, ladies.
Thanks so much.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Mona, last question for you. What are some essential strategies for human-centered AI?
First and foremost, know yourself, know thyself.
Know thyself.
Because if you don't know what your journey has been, if you don't take a moment to look back, and of course there's ways of doing this, and that's what we do. We sit down with you and we go through your journey on a very deep level. I mean, Deborah, as a therapist, you would understand there are questions that you have to ask. I personally didn't know my story until I was 50 years old. So imagine if you're starting a business at any point in your life, if you don't look back and see why you decided to do whatever it is that you're deciding to do, how are you going to ever tell your story? So that's the first and most important thing I would say.
I love it. Well, ladies, thank you so much for this time here on the Hacks and Hobbies live show. I'm going to share a link with you guys after the show, but would love to bring you back on the podcast and go even deeper on what you bring to the audience. But thank you so much for being here. I've got one message from our listeners and people who are watching this on the replay. Please feel free to drop questions and I'll forward them or even ask them on the next episode that we do record together with Deborah, Mariana, and Mona. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good time.